Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, that was mediocre, but I'll take it because we're on a time schedule. I'm Assistant Professor of Dance, Amber Emery-Mayer, and welcome to our Art Without Limits talk with our wonderful guest, Leslie Shampaine. Some of you had the delight of working with her this morning, if you were in one of the dance classes this morning, and the rest of you will have the opportunity to hear what she has to say about her work in arts entrepreneurship. I'd like to introduce her first. Leslie Shampaine has been telling stories throughout her professional life, from the ballet stage, where she performed across the world during a 13-year career, to the television screen, where she has been producing award-winning programs for PBS, Discovery Channel, A&E, CBS, and Al Jazeera. Her work ranges from documentaries to cultural and educational series and includes 8 years as part of the production team for the Emmy Award-winning Kennedy Center Honors. Please welcome Leslie Shampaine.
Okay, hi everybody. When I was younger, I believed that if I just worked hard enough, that things would just fall into place, especially in dance where discipline is everything. My first humbling experience came early. I was 17 years old. I was at the prestigious School of American Ballet in New York, which is the school for New York City Ballet. And every year, choreographers would come and create new works with the students. I was thrilled to be chosen by John Terrace, who was the assistant to George Balanchine, and he chose me to be in his new piece. George Balanchine, it was like, wow, he was alive at the time, the greatest choreographer of our times, in my opinion, at that time. It felt like a huge honor. I was one of 8 couples, and I couldn't stop smiling and talking with the other dancers in rehearsal. I meant well, I was just really excited. But to him, it looked like I wasn't taking it seriously. And one day, I walked into rehearsal at the School of American Ballet, and I saw that my name had been removed from the casting. No warning, no second chance, just gone. I was so humiliated, I didn't know if I'd ever be able to walk into that school again. A few years later, even telling the story makes me like, oh my God, it was the worst thing. A few years later, I was 20 and I was dancing with my first company, and another lesson came. It was Halloween, and my roommate and I wore different colored tights and put something decorative in our hair, something fun like we used to do at school. But the director didn't think it was funny, and he looked across the studio and he yelled, "Leslie, have you ever thought about being a housewife?" Everybody froze, everybody looked at me. I just wanted to disappear. Once again, it seemed I wasn't showing respect for the work, when in truth I was really serious and I worked incredibly hard. But my intent and how I was perceived, they didn't match. I had to learn that professionalism in the arts isn't just about talent. It's about awareness, humility, and understanding the world you're stepping into. Those 2 moments, as painful as they were, became turning points. They taught me that being an artist means constantly navigating between passion and perception. You can love your craft completely and still make mistakes. But those mistakes are how you grow. The arts have a funny way of humbling you. And if you can survive that, you discover something stronger than talent: resilience. And that's what I want to talk about today: how to build a life in the arts, not just a career. How to fall, how to recover, and reinvent yourself again and again, because that's the real art form. Next slide. I know many of you are at that exciting, uncertain point where you're about to leap, entering college, graduating, freelancing, or creating your own projects. You might be wondering if you're ready or if you're good enough. Or maybe you're not even sure what you want to do. But here's what I've learned. Being ready is a myth. It's about trying something. And if that doesn't work, trying something else. For most people, life is a path of stepping stones, and there is no wrong step. The path may curve or meander, but you learn from every single experience. I went from the School of American Ballet to my first job at the Los Angeles Ballet. I enjoyed it, and I was growing, even if the director told me I should maybe consider being a housewife. But after 2 years, something was missing. And the company was having financial problems, and we were on a season break, which in the arts means unemployed until further notice. So I decided to take a step in a new direction. I wanted to explore dance in Europe and see what opportunities might exist. The arts are alive all over the world, and I owed it to myself to explore. So at 21, I left my job, took my suitcase, and bought a one-way ticket. I started knocking on the doors of dance companies across Germany and France. I'd call, ask if I could take company class, and if there was an audition somewhere, I'd take it. I didn't have a plan B, and I just had determination and a metro map. Transitions are not just hard, they're alive. Every time we step into something new, there's uncertainty. That's not failure, that's how we grow. This transition lasted a year, full of rejections at auditions. It wasn't easy. I was on my own in a foreign country, I didn't speak the language, and my funds were limited. But dancers everywhere were generous. The arts world has its own community, and people shared tips about jobs, offered a couch to sleep on, and encouraged me to keep going. When money ran out, I joined a jazz company for 6 months, dancing at conventions and at shows. It wasn't my dream job, but it gave me enough money to stay in Europe. Meanwhile, calls came from home. This was before cell phones and before emails, and communication was intermittent and usually by letter. My family was worried. What are you doing, Leslie? The truth was, I didn't exactly know. I just knew I had to do it. After a year, I was finally accepted into a ballet company. I put my pointe shoes back on and started working in a real theater. Every city in Europe has a theater. It's a living, breathing, artistic ecosystem of dancers, singers, actors, musicians, set designers, and costume makers. We all ate together in the canteen, our little world of creativity and chaos under one roof. And that's where I found my home, my community, and my space. People sometimes ask, weren't you afraid? Of course, but fear wasn't the story. The story was motion and not giving up. Fear is just the background noise that's in your head that says you're doing something new. Every major leap in my life, from ballet to television to starting my own company, began with that same mix of excitement and uncertainty and fear. What matters is that I kept stepping forward. You don't need all the answers to begin, just enough belief in yourself to start moving. Reinvention isn't just about starting over. It's about continuing differently. In the arts, we often think if we change directions, it means we failed at the first thing. But reinvention is how artists evolve. At 33, I was dancing principal roles in Switzerland and guesting with companies around the world. And I decided to do what dancers rarely do. I decided to retire at the top of my career. I wanted to leave while I still loved it, not because of leaving because of injury or because of fading roles. I didn't want to be a teacher or a choreographer. I wanted to discover what else might be possible. So once again, I walked into the unknown. Leaving dance felt physically painful. The dancers in the theater were my family, and stepping away felt like losing a part of myself. I literally felt like I was sawing off my arm. Too often in the arts, transitions happen to us. and I wanted to direct my own. I moved back to New York, where my mother lived, and started at the bottom again, this time as an intern on a documentary film. I got the job through a connection of my mom's, and the director hired me as a favor to her. He didn't think I'd last more than 2 weeks. I had constant headaches. I even went to the eye doctor, but it wasn't my eyes. It was the stress of being new again, of not knowing what I was doing. When I first moved into film, I honestly thought I had no skills besides sewing point shoes. I thought, what on earth do I have to offer? But I was so wrong. Only later did I realize how much my background in the theater had prepared me for this next visual art form. A proscenium stage is the same size as a TV screen. Both are about storytelling, keeping an audience engaged for 2 hours, guiding their eyes, evoking emotion. They both have costumes, lights, music, artists, and creative chaos. They both require teamwork and the ability to work independently. All those years of performing taught me discipline, perseverance, and how to work with passionate and occasionally very feisty people, how to meet deadlines, multitask, and deliver under pressure. I wasn't starting from zero. I was translating what I already knew into a new medium. The canvas changed, but the instincts were the same. I remember once applying for a documentary job early in my career. The person interviewing me looked at my resume, and he's scrolling down to look at my education. No degree in film, no degree in communications, no background in film, just a long list of ballet experience. He smiled and politely, and he said to me, "I bet that dance career doesn't help you much in film." I disagreed politely and firmly, and I told him exactly how it did help, about the discipline, the timing, the storytelling, the collaboration, the creative eye, and I got the job. That's the thing about reinvention. It's not a reaction to failure, it's a choice to keep growing. It's saying, I've mastered one language of expression, now I want to learn another. I'll just tell you a little bit about this slide, and you see me here, which is sort of funny. It was a Discovery Channel TV show about, it's called, When I Die, or What Happens When I Die. It's about people who actually, die physically, biologically, and then they come back. So what happens in between? So we had to do, so the thing in documentary, unlike Larry, who, he's on big feature films, so you've got everybody doing these jobs. In documentary, it's a tiny, tiny team. So I ended up, we had to replicate a car crash. And that's me putting the fake blood on the person. How did I know that? And that's me in a rehearsal. So there was another scene with paramedics, and these were actual firemen and paramedics. But we had to recreate this thing in documentary. And that was me doing the rehearsal with them, and that was me doing the makeup. I didn't learn how to do that, but I knew how to do it from theater. Next. People often look at my career and say, wow, you've done so many different things. But to me, it's always felt like one continuous thread, just expressed in different ways. Every step I've taken has built on the one before. After years of working in film and television, there came a point when I wanted to bring dance back into my life in a more personal way. I had taught underserved youth before, but this time I was drawn to seniors. I took a workshop and started teaching for a program called Dance for Parkinson's that's connected to the Mark Morris Dance Company. The classes were seated, dancing in a chair. It was about joy and rhythm and connection rather than perfection, and I loved it. I loved working with older people and seeing their faces light up when the music began. Eventually, I morphed that program into my own version and started volunteering at senior centers. I believe dance is for everyone, and I was happy to bring it to anyone who wanted to move, even in a wheelchair, and feel the music again. Then, one day, I was working at Al Jazeera. I reached another turning point. I was getting tired of the hierarchy and bureaucracy that comes with big institutions. I was at National Geographic, Al Jazeera, Discovery Channel. And one day I turned to my girlfriend, who's a journalist, an on-air journalist. Her name's Femi Okay, and I said, Femi, in the future, I just want to work with people that I like, the kind of people I'd actually invite to my house for dinner. A few months later, she comes back to me with an idea, and she says, Leslie, I moderate high-level meetings all over the world. And here's what I noticed about those meetings. One, they're usually really boring. Two, they're filled with men on panels. And three, there's almost no diversity. And she said, Leslie, would you like to start a company with me? We could bring diversity, creativity, inclusivity, and energy and women to these projects and events and really make them engaging. I'd never started a company before, but I was doing a lot of management and production work, so I said, okay, let's try. And that's how we started Moderate the Panel. 8 years later, we represent a global network of diverse women who moderate and MC events around the world. Our clients include the World Bank, the United Nations, WHO, Reuters, and we've done it all as a side business, while each of us still were working in other roles. What's interesting is that event production is really the same as producing a live TV show. The goal is the same, to make sure the audience is engaged and that people feel something. It all connects, teaching seniors, producing films, moderating events. They all draw on the same foundation of storytelling, empathy, collaboration, and creative problem solving. Every step builds to the next. And even when it doesn't look like a straight line, it's still your line, and it's leading somewhere that's uniquely yours. If there's one thing I learned, it's this: just keep trying. Every opportunity, even the ones that don't seem to fit, teaches you something about yourself. I don't say no to opportunities just because they don't look perfect or predictable. Life in the arts is rarely linear. It's more like a collage of experiences that together make you who you are. So if something interests you, try it. Say yes, even when you don't know where it will lead. You are made up of so many different parts of you: the creative part, the analytical part, the curious part, the brave part, and all of them deserve space to grow. Which brings us to some practical ways you can show the world who you are, starting with how to tell your story on paper. Oh, that's not supposed to be there. Okay, here, this one. A resume. A resume is your first chance to tell the world who you are, not just what you've done. Every artist has a story. Your resume should reflect that. The same way choreography or film tells a story, make it a narrative. Show the thread that connects your experiences. I read a lot of resumes and I hire a lot of people. And I also do some tutoring and mentoring for people with their resumes. I'm gonna give you some of my views about resumes, but some people and your professors might have different feelings about it, so just follow your instincts. Tip 1, adapt your resume for every job. Each job is hiring for a purpose and they're looking for different things. Just like at auditions, when you get cut, even before you've taken a step and they say, okay, gone, goodbye, and that's happened to me, it's because they might be looking for someone who can fill that costume or replace a person that just left. It's not you personally, but they're looking for something else. So adapt your resume for each job. Tip 2, I like to see links in a resume so that I have context what that job was. Let's say you did some project and you were a dancer, so were you a dancer in a college or a school performance? Or was it a professional company? If someone writes that they directed and did the camera for a film, was it a student film? Was it for Netflix? I want to see the context. And if you put a link, I will always look at those links. I mean, I know if you're a student, it's going to be a student film, but if there's a link to what it is, I'm been in this field long enough, I can see what you've done. So it really helps me understand who you are. Another tip, write the different roles you do for a project, but you don't need to describe the role. For instance, in film, we have a production assistant. That person keeps the script notes, handles craft services, like get coffee, build the set. I know that the production assistant is an entry-level job, and it includes everything, including sweeping the floor. But you don't have to tell me. If I read production assistant on a film, I know exactly what it is. So a lot of people who are new in resume writing, they list exactly what they did. But I don't have more than 2 or 3 minutes to read a resume, so you don't have to do that. Save your space and add more things. The other tip is show all of you, particularly in the beginning when you don't have a lot on your resume. Show who you are. I like to see activities and interests, and this is where some people disagree with me. And I'll tell you a story. I was at Al Jazeera. I was working with somebody. He wanted to hire an assistant. And we looked through all the resumes. We had shortlisted it down to these 2 women. And they both had equally good resumes, equally good interviews. At the bottom of one woman's resume, she listed her activities. And she said she did yoga and reading and whatever. In the end, we gave her the job. Why? Because the guy who was going to be his assistant, he said, well, she does yoga, so that means she's more like quiet, and I like yoga, and I think that's really good, so I'm gonna hire her. And it's sort of a strange reason, but there are, it tells us who you are. And sometimes I've been on like reality TV shows or things for National Geographic, and somebody says they have an interest in hiking and outdoor things. And I'm like, oh God, that's perfect because this is an outdoor thing, or we're gonna be sending that person out into the field. So that's perfect if that person likes nature. There was a guy, David, he wanted to be in editing, and I saw his resume, and there was like sort of a gap between how old he is and there was like a multi-years. And I said, David, he didn't have that much experience. And I said, what's this gap? And he explained to me, well, I was in the military for 5 or 6 years. I was repairing airplanes and reading 200-page aviation manuals. And I said, well, how come you left that off your resume? And he said, well, my teachers at my college told me, only put on your resume things that have to do with film that I'm applying for, that the rest I shouldn't put on. And I said, David, I disagree. I think you should put it on, because what does it show when you were doing that? It shows you're disciplined because you were in the military. You know how to work with a team. You know how to work under pressure. You have tenacity and patience to read a 200-page aviation manual. I said, put it back on. He did. I helped him rewrite his resume. He got his editing job, and he's still there and quite happy at it. Next. There's this stereotype that artists are sort of eccentric, a little unpredictable, and scattered. But in my experience, the most successful artists are the most reliable. I've worked in companies, on sets, and in theaters, and the people who get rehired are the ones who show up, prepared, listen, and respect others. If you were just in Larry's session, he said exactly the same thing. I've learned to be the opposite of the diva stereotype. When you treat every single rehearsal like a job, be on time, know your material, and be kind. People remember that. And I've seen the opposite too. Incredibly talented people who don't last because they couldn't collaborate. Professionalism is consistency. It's being someone people trust. And here's a little secret. Directors and choreographers are incredibly insecure. Maybe even more so when they're creating something new. So if they sense resistance or disrespect, like somebody like, oh, the director's told you, okay, do it again for the 15th time. And there's somebody in the back sort of like, oh God, doing the eye roll, or someone not paying attention, it makes that choreographer or director question their own work and makes them feel insecure. And when that happens, the whole energy in the room changes, and it's what happened to me when I was 17. I meant well. I didn't mean to be disrespectful, but he thought I was being disrespectful to his piece, and it made him insecure. This guy right here, Manish, and many of you came to see the film last night. I knew early on, that's a scene from Call Me Dancer, I knew early on that he would really do well. Why? Because he wasn't a perfect dancer. As he says, there are a lot of dancers much better than he is. But he always showed up. He was curious, he was respectful, he had a good attitude, and that's what people want to work with. When I asked Igal Perry, who was his director later at Perry Dance in New York, he said the same thing. Manish shows up, he never says no. I ask him to do this, I ask him to do that, he just tries. And he always tries with, a smile on his face. He never says, oh no, I can't do it, or whatever. So, people want to work with someone who's willing to work with you. Another tip, respect the hierarchy. Every single role matters, from the stage manager to the costume designer. Defer to them, and they know their role. In a sports team, if you're defense, would you suddenly spring onto the offense side, even if you knew you could score that goal? Probably not, because teamwork works best when everyone understands their role and respects it. Another interesting story from Miss Leslie Shampaine. I was starting out in film. We're in Peru. It's my first or second job. And we're on a mountaintop, and we were doing something for a Spanish language series. And we had kid actors. They weren't really actors, but it was a young guy. We brought him from New York to Peru. It was about teaching Spanish. And the director was trying to get him to walk from here to here and maybe do something. And this young 18-year-old, he wasn't really getting it, and it wasn't exactly working. We had taken a break, turned the cameras off. We're taking a 5-minute break. And I go over to him, and I quietly say, because here it was, I held this years on stage. I was like, if you just do that, or you just do that, this is what he's talking about. Maybe if I said it differently, this kid would get it. Well, he did get it, and he thanked me. But then later, the director, Cyrus, he came up to me, and he said, fortunately, it wasn't humiliating, because he didn't say it in front of everybody, like yelling at me. He said, Leslie, I'm the director. I appreciate what you want to say, but if you have something to say, you say it to me, and I will tell him, or I will tell you to tell him. But you do not tell the actor what he should be doing. I didn't know. It's about respect, reliability, and the way you treat people, because that's what keeps the doors opening again and again. When I wanted to start, when I wanted to start something new, like my film Call Me Dancer or my company Moderate the Panel, my colleagues helped me a lot. They gave me their time, and sometimes it was for free, and sometimes at a very discounted rate, because they believed in the work and they believe in me. The arts are built on collaboration. I have a brilliant editor right now who's worked with me now for 3 years on Call Me Dancer, and he's done it for free, simply because he loves the project, he knows I don't have any money, and he enjoys working with me together. So being an entrepreneur in the arts means learning to rely on others, to call in favors when you have a good idea, but you can only do that when you have built a network of colleagues who respect you and know that you'll do the same for them. If you were here, the last 2 people said exactly the same thing. It's so easy to watch others and forget to do. When I was starting out, I didn't have social media to distract me. I had to try things, and I failed a lot. But that's where the learning happened. If I'd grown up in the smartphone era just like you, I really don't think I would have become a dancer. I wasn't competitive enough to survive the endless comparisons. I look on TikTok and Instagram, and I just see, oh my God, look at these dancers. They're spinning, they're turning, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're jumping. I would have quit. I mean, not even quit. I wouldn't have even gone very far because I'm not competitive. So, I'm happy that I didn't live in this time because it's really, really hard for all of you. But I would say have faith in yourself and your own instincts. If you're in a performing art form, go see as many live performances as you can. You will learn, move away from the phone and see live art. You're going to learn so much from observing. Ask yourself, when you see something, what moved you? Why did that work? Why do I have my eyes on that actor or dancer versus that one? And how does that person or that piece make me feel? I said this earlier, I think today, I never liked opera. I couldn't understand what they were singing. But when I was at the theater that I worked at, I started to sit in the wings with the libretto and start following along. And eventually I really learned a lot and learned to have an appreciation for opera. And here's another tip. same as the two guys before me, find a mentor or just a person who believes in you. You need support, especially in the arts. But try to tune out all those voices that say, this field isn't practical, you'll never make any money, it's too competitive. There are so many roles in the performing arts and film, people just don't realize how many jobs exist behind the spotlight. So don't give up, keep trying, and keep building. There's nothing as wonderful or as challenging as a career in the arts. It's a life worth choosing. So stop scrolling, keep dreaming, and start trying. That's how you build a life in the arts. Every new stage of my life began with one decision, to say yes to something I didn't know how to do. For instance, when I made my film, Call Me Dancer, it began with an idea, and I decided to jump into the big black void once again. I had a lot of doubts. I had never directed a film. I was always producing, which is a completely different role. I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know how to market a film. And I'd never worked on indie films. I'd only worked in television, which is a very different field. And no one in my industry or my colleagues had ever worked on an indie film. A lot of people discouraged me and said, don't do it, Leslie. But I wanted to make the film because it was about dance and artists. And some of you had seen the film. It's a story of an Indian hip-hop dancer who wants to follow his dream and dance professionally, and the mentor who encouraged him. I partnered with a good friend, that's Pip, who's next to me, and that's a very, very well-known cameraman who's done a lot for Dance in America. You know, I was like, oh my God. But she led the way, and I chose top artists in DC, and I didn't compromise. I told this story through my lens as a dancer. I know that there are a lot of films about dance, but very few are directed by dancers. I wanted people to understand why artists do what they do. Why does someone with a passion persevere and keep going and chasing a dream when there are endless obstacles? It's the story of why we're here today. Why do people all over the world walk through those doors into the dark void when everything is against them? This film brought me full circle by connecting me once again with the art form that I love. And then came the payoff, seeing audiences around the world connect with it. The film grew from one dancer's journey to a global story, which has now been seen on PBS. It's been in over 100 festivals. It's broadcast in Europe, Japan, Israel, and it's won over 25 awards, including China's top documentary award, that was me. I won that last year. They flew me to China. It was like I felt like I was in a fairy tale. They had hair and makeup, so I didn't have to do that. Cody, could you please show the trailer?
I want to dance. I really want to dance, and I'm doing everything for it. My father's a taxi driver, and my grandfather was also a taxi driver. They always told me this is the hobbies for rich children, not for us. I can't give up. I'll keep dancing. That's when I met Yehuda.
No, what you don't understand what I'm screaming over and
He make everyone cry.
You're not working.
I trained them physically very hard.
Up and feet.
He said, I saw something in you.
I really want him to get a professional job. You're ready, you're 20, you don't have the time, you're not schoolboy. As you are now, you're a dancer that look for a job.
It's my career, but with that money I can help my parents.
तो ऑडिशन कितनी थी ना तो ना प्रोजेक्ट जितने पर जापान से तो दे नहीं
Meant to be done for maybe not now, I don't know.
I had to really think how I can help you without break you.
work hard, not just hard, smartly hard. People used to think like I'm just the acrobat. I was like, I don't want to be acrobat, I want to be a dancer. Call me dancer.
Thank you. Some of you saw that yesterday, the film. Okay, next. So, what did it really take to make that film? It took 6 years to make across 4 countries, 3 continents, and during a pandemic. There were times I did not think we'd finish, but each challenge became a part of the process, learning, adapting, and trusting. We didn't have big studios or massive budgets. We had resourcefulness, collaboration, and people who believed in the vision. And yes, there were sleepless nights, plenty of headaches, and quite a few moments of pure panic. But that's what passion looks like in real life. And as if that weren't enough, on a whim, I applied for a Fulbright Scholarship based on the film, and I got it. And last year, I spent 6 months in India developing ideas for the next chapter of Call Me Dancer. It's a new adventure, new collaborations, and new ways to connect movement, storytelling, and culture. We're now in another leap, a technological one. Once I started trying AI, I realized something. AI didn't replace me, it empowered me. It helped me even more to write grants, make connections with other businesses, and organize my thoughts and brainstorm. And it gave me the time to focus on the creative heart of the work I was doing. Technology has always changed the arts, from film editing to digital photography to online performance, but the artist's role stays the same, to give meaning. We're living in a time where your creativity can reach anyone, anywhere, and the tools just help you get there faster. New tools don't replace artists, they expand them. And that means the future of art, your future, has no limits. Thank you. So now we have a little time if you have questions.
Thank you, Leslie. We have some time for some questions or comments, and I have a microphone, which is always dangerous for me. And somebody want to start? Yeah, I'll come all the way back to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate and how inspiring it is that in the height of your passionate career, you kind of switch course like that. I went to school for something different than I'm doing now, and I just wanted to say thank you. It gives me a lot of inspiration and hope that I can change my career at any point, just like you did. So
Yep.
I just wanted to say thank you. That's very inspiring.
You're welcome. Yes, change. Don't worry about it, just change.
All right, I have somebody down here.
Hi, yeah. I'm a fashion design student, and I think your speech is very powerful. Even though it's about dance, it still speaks about the arts in general. But one thing I did want to ask is what really strived you, like, to overcome your fear? What was that big thing that pushed you to overcome what you were really scared of?
You never overcome it. Like even standing here in front of you, I'm nervous. And every time I stepped out on a stage, I was nervous, I was fearful. Sometimes when I started doing principal roles, I would walk into the theater and there's the security guard at the desk, and I just wished to God I was him. I was like, why can't I have that job? Or there was the person dressing me in my costume or doing my hair. And I was just like, can't I be that person? I just feel so stressed out and nervous. But those nerves, it's also called adrenaline, you know? There is a lot of fear, and you just have to, like me right now, close your eyes, breathe, take care of yourself, and just keep going, just keep stepping forward. There is no answer to that fear. But, you know, it's like I said, there's a combination of fears can also be like adrenaline. And in my dressing room at the theater, because we always we lived in the theater, so I had a dressing room. Everyone's dressing table, all the women, was really neat, like their makeup, their pointe shoes, and my table was a mess. It was really a mess. The pointe shoes were all over, my clothes were all over, my makeup was like a mess. And I kept, you know, I'd keep cleaning it up and trying, and I was like, why, what's the matter with me? Why can't I be like these other girls where they're all like nice? And I just realized that that kind of chaotic feeling, that was sort of a stress, that was part of my creativity. And even now, like I do a lot of financial stuff in my work now in film and in my home, I like everything organized, but if you go into my office today, it's like the papers are everywhere. I mean, it's a mess. And I realized one day that kind of drives me, you know, even though I don't like it, but that kind of keeps me going. So anyway, everybody has something about their anxiety and stress, but sometimes it leads to creativity.
Anyone else?
With all of the different like roles that you've stepped into, especially with not having as much experience in like different things, how did you combat like the imposter syndrome of like stepping into that role and just like taking charge in those different ways?
Well, the imposter syndrome, like Larry spoke about it, sometimes you have it a lot. I mean, thank goodness for the computer. Like sometimes people would say stuff. When I worked at the Kennedy Center Honors, it's a lot about, you know, we were honoring, you know, cultural icons. I sometimes had never heard of these people, or I'm in meetings and they're saying blah, 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 and this person's name and this person's name. I'm really bad with like actors and music and like, no, I just kept writing everything down. And then I go and look it up. Just like Larry said, I will always find an answer for something I don't know. And you can just have a line, let me get back to you about that. You know, when they ask you a question, so what do you think about so-and-so? Do you think he'd be great for the show, you know, or whatever? Let me get back to you about that. And like, they'll look it up, who is that person they're talking about, you know? They're incredibly famous. I mean, this actor, Jack Black, at the, you know, I didn't know who he was. And I brought my kids to the Kennedy Center Honors to the rehearsal. And they were like, Mom, it's Jack Black. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, do you want to meet him, kids? And they're like, yes, yes. And he was the nicest guy. I didn't even know who he was. I hadn't even seen the movies, you know. That's how lame I could be. But I was not fearful. I was just like, okay, just look it up, figure it out. Don't ever say like, I mean, like, Larry said this too. He's like, if you start out always, and I said it today, just ask questions, questions, questions. But sometimes don't ask a question. Like don't be like, oh my God, this person knows nothing. You can look it up. You don't want to embarrass yourself when everybody else knows who Jack Black is and I don't, you know. Lady Gaga, same thing. I didn't know what she looked like. She's right in front of me. She's like this big, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I didn't recognize her, you know, but don't say you don't know because you'll be embarrassed, but go look it up.
We have another question here. Question, a comment?
Yeah.
Okay, comment.
Hi. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for this great session. And like I came here to America 1 month ago to follow my dream. I left my home and my family. I'm from Nepal, and I came here to become a successful actress. And like it really inspired me today to go forward, to move, to not give up. So I'm super grateful for this session, and thank you so much for inspiring me.
Thank you. I mean, you did what I did, which is I just went to a foreign country because I knew I was going to grow. And it's hard. It's really hard. So congratulations to you.
All right.
Howdy. I just wanted to say thank you so much. I've been going through a really rough time. My dad just passed on the 28th, and I have to navigate all the legal stuff. And just when you said that your journey, it doesn't have to be, those steps do not have to be linear, that your journey is uniquely you, that just really resonated with me. And I probably should be asking a question or something like that. I feel like just adding on to the personal comments. But, when you are faced with something that is so scary and just daunting, and you have to just keep asking questions, or you just take it a step at a time, it really makes you reflect on who you are. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your personal story, and it's definitely something that I'm taking into account as I'm dealing with mine. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss. And, not to say that loss is, but, when I started doing principal roles, I'd never done a principal role. I came from the balancing school where everything is, there's no story. Everything's no story. It's about the choreography. And I go to Europe and I get my first principal role, and I was like, I don't know how to approach this. And on my summer break, I went back to New York and I took some acting classes. And this acting teacher taught me that even at the age of 19 or 20, she said, you have every experience, because, in my role, I had to commit suicide on stage. But it didn't work, and I still, continued on. And she said, you have experienced everything in your young life of up to 20 or 22 to express every single thing and every emotion in theater. And you need to learn to connect with it and tell your story. And even if you're doing something abstract, like I say to dancers, if you do an arm like this, or you do like this, and maybe it's really abstract, or you're painting something, you're creating, there has to be a story and there has to be an intention. And tell your own story, use your own emotions, because the people who are standing up on the stage or whatever they're doing, they might not know your story, but you have an intention and you have a lot that you experienced in your life to go through every single role and single story you can connect to. And I never thought about committing suicide, but she taught me, like, oh no, you experienced, tell me some experience that you had that was really hard. So she taught me how to connect, and I'm really sorry for your loss. Hopefully, you take that pain and, one day it will be part of your art as well. And even expressing it is really, exposing yourself, which is what art's about.
We have time for one more question or comment. If anyone has anything they'd like to put forward, contribute.
How do you get that next job? No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Hi, I just wanted to say, again, thank you for your talk. I'm a film student at Kent, so your story of just jumping into film was really inspiring. And I was just wondering if your upcoming continuation with Call Me Dancer, if there are any opportunities, or if you need any help with your filming in that process.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I could use an intern. I could use someone. I'm doing the educational outreach, and I'd love to have the help. So come and see me afterwards, and I'll give you my card. Yes, thank you. And I love to mentor young people, and I will leave my card here as well. You're welcome to reach out to me anytime. And I know I was in your place, and I will do everything, if you call me to talk to you, even if it's over a Zoom or something, because I know what it feels like. It's horrible. It's like you're on the precipice and you're about to dive. But I would like to be there to help you and encourage you. I can't maybe give you that job, but I can encourage you to keep going.
All right, Leslie, you've been so generous with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks.